we're excited to start this webinar, and basically this topic is going to be about IT and in general your operations not being a juggling act, because we want to show enterprises how we can support you at different stages of your digital transformation to help drive that hybrid IT environment with full visibility along the way at every step of your journey. But to kind of kick things off a little bit, just wanted to give you the scoop on who is Logic Monitor, as this will kind of set the premise of the conversation. So basically, who we are and what it is that we actually do is driving a unified observability platform. So at Logic Monitor, we really offer a comprehensive view and visibility across your infrastructure, your networks, clouds, containers, applications, services, all leveraging robust context with detailed correlation and that layer of intelligence to give you the insights you actually need to enable proactive automation and problem resolution across all of your ops teams. So with that, what we're going to cover in today's webinar is more around those cloud pain points, that race and the speed and the scale for rapid innovation. We're going to cover those different levels of cloud maturity and what that looks like in the context of a successful digital transformation. And we're going to cover how Logic Monitor supports enterprises at those different stages. So digital transformation isn't one size fits all. And the cloud is limitless, which is a key factor in its appeal, but also a major part of the problem. And this is why digital transformation and in general, an organization's journey to cloud isn't one size fits all. And this also includes the approach to hybrid. Enterprises are really looking to innovate, and they're looking to do so at rapid speed, but to achieve both your business outcomes as well as deliver superior end user experiences. But the majority of enterprises will still continue to maintain some mix of a complex hybrid infrastructure, as well as diversify their cloud strategies across multi-cloud environments. Therefore, increasing control to reduce risk is more than just table stakes at this point. So the reality is, and especially for most CIOs, is that simple cloud projects have grown exponentially in complexity to hybrid, multi-cloud architecture with hundreds of cloud services in IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS forms. So cloud operations really is a multi-domain collaboration with network ops, with DevOps, your SREs, security ops, IT ops, and all of these functions needing equal access, cross-functional visibility, and common data sets. But in contrast, if you're continuing to operate in silos across these disparate functions and without consolidation and visibility, this really hinders an organization on their path to cloud. And this is where it leaves a business with essentially a hefty price to pay for the cost of their innovation and that desire for extensibility. So with cloud and the evolution and how do you keep up with change, it's really about digital transformation where you're delivering new services, you're innovating, and you're trying to reduce those operational efficiencies. And where that leads is speed and agility is essential. And those business impacts and IT impacts all translate to the business. And now you have this big focus on digital experiences. And then when it comes to cloud migration, essentially everyone's doing it, but it's putting them in that hybrid operating state consistently. And services are really spread across multiple clouds, mixed with on-premise environments. Complexity has significantly increased. And now there's that pivot and that focus on observability. And then you're looking at efficiency. You're managing on really tight budgets, and you're trying to not overextend people or your infrastructure to accommodate this growth. And now there's a lower effort to enable monitoring. You're trying to reduce the friction between these different teams with competing priorities and initiatives, but you're also trying to enable that decision-making to drive better use of your IT infrastructure and those applications. So what's the state of cloud essentially, or the future of cloud? If you're looking at, I'll bucket it in three categories. So you have cloud use, you have cloud waste, and then optimizing cost. If you're looking at this stat right here, 40% of workloads will be in the cloud, according to Gartner. And then you're looking at another Gartner stat where it's 50% will actually use distributed cloud. So you have all this cloud usage planned by 2023, 2025, and it's rapidly growing. But then you're looking at where companies are spending and how they're utilizing that spend. And then you have an estimated 100 billion that's wasted in migration spend over the next 3 years, as many of these enterprises are citing the cost around migration as that major inhibitor to even start your journey to cloud. Or you're looking at 32% of cloud spend is wasted, and that's a significant 30% increase from the year prior, 2021. So what are most executives and functions looking to prioritize as an initiative going forward? And the number one, according to CRN, is really cost control, that first initiative that is going to level set them across their digital transformation efforts. Okay, so we want to go on this journey to cloud. We want to achieve success. So we're going to look at the pain points. And these aren't all encompassing necessarily, but these are the consolidated ones that come up most often across different levels in an organization. So really, you have these kind of silos, and these different types of pains stem from that across an organization. And when it comes to not only cloud, but hybrid as well, anything that is a massive evolution will cause friction. So the pain points with cloud, it's not uncommon for different areas of the business to have different levels of maturity or states that they're operating in. But the silos is what creates the gaps, increased risks, and it drives up those operational expenses. Organizations also really need predictability, and this includes the ability to execute on proper capacity planning and allocating those resources appropriately. But then you have a lack of visibility really across infrastructure, across your services, across your applications, as well as in general on what all of your different ops teams are doing. And this impacts progression because you can't scale what you can't see. So even before achieving observability, which is that constant state of observing that enables you to act with confidence, you need that discovery, that visibility at a holistic level. So what's the goal then? Or rather, the footprint to success. You need to be able to monitor anything. Devices, networks, on-prem, check. You want to monitor distributed branches, or you're operating in a perimeterless footprint outside the office, inside the office, on the go, check. You're using one cloud, maybe two, great, check. Or out-of-the-box capabilities and auto-discovery is really essential, but extensibility and personalization to an enterprise's needs at this step is crucial to adapt to the varying or even unique use cases that each individual enterprise has and within their underlying functions. So monitoring anything, step one. The next kind of area is now you're monitoring with maximum visibility. Now you can actually observe everything, and whether that's performance or it's downtime, or you're looking at a reduction or observing a reduction of your average MTTR and your overall remediation efforts, your utilization in different areas, or even your costs. So then with the steady state of observability, this is where you can actually act with confidence. You can drive operational assurance so the business can actually really scale with purpose. And then teams have the data, the tools, the insights, everything necessary to accelerate both transformation as well as innovation, because sometimes you have to sacrifice one for the other. So with the notion of maturity, so I feel like a lot of enterprises get conflicted with, okay, cloud isn't one size fits all, but there's also a linear path to maturity, and there's essentially one type. But really, solutions that you're partnering with and vendors that you're looking at overall, especially in the monitoring space, they need to accommodate your current and your future state. So when it comes to the different levels of maturity, we'll propose a few in terms of what we're seeing in the space. And the first one is your remediation approach. And this entails a reactive state, a proactive state, something predictive, and then something adaptive. The difference between reactive and proactive as it matures is that you can still be essentially proactively reactive if you have all the right information and you're leveraging correlation and insights that specifically pinpoints the root cause or essentially gives you the needle in that haystack, and you can act quickly and efficiently. And that's kind of that shift from I'm being reactive without any context and I don't know which team's responsible or where the issue is. So that's that kind of shift. And eventually enterprises want to mature more towards that predictive, like, great, how can I avoid this in the future? How can I scale my operations? And then you're moving towards adaptive, where you can start to work together within your systems, within your company initiatives to kind of remediate adaptively to help your business grow. So that's one kind of maturity row that we're looking at. Another one is cloud readiness. So we're looking at on-premise. You're largely on-premise. Maybe you're dabbling a little bit with cloud applications like an O365 or a Slack, or baby steps to cloud, but mainly on-premise. Or then you're looking at lift and shift, where you have cloud VMs or it's really IaaS only. Or you have refactored applications, or you're serverless. And then you're kind of heading towards microservices. So that's another kind of maturity curve. And then you're looking at your monitoring posture. Largely where enterprise journeys have started out are infrastructure centric. You're basing your monitoring approach on the infrastructure you know and you have, and whether that's been heavily on premises or network focused, or it scales more towards cloud, that's still within that infrastructure centric kind of approach or monitoring posture. As companies evolve, that's when you're starting to look at applications, and you take a more application-centric approach to your monitoring, and then it falls back into infrastructure, and everything's underlying layered, but all kind of evolves with each other. That next step is edge-centric. It expands beyond just the applications, beyond just the infrastructure, to the edge and every other kind of essentially entry point or communication point between your application, your services, your infrastructure. And then the really advanced state of maturity in your monitoring posture is either and or your behavior-centric approach or experience-centric approach, where you're driving your company's innovation, your digital transformation based on the experiences that your teams are building, creating to drive not only business continuity, but productivity in terms of how it affects your end users and what that means for your company's growth overall. But the key is with maturity is that you have these, and these aren't definitive, but you have these different essentially layers of maturity. They don't also have to be linear in terms of where you are on that path at all. It differs from each organization. So let's say you have one enterprise and their remediation approach is overwhelmed. They're still really reactive. But in the context of cloud readiness, they're heading or already in that lift and shift state. And then their monitoring posture is actually a little more advanced in terms of what they're looking at. They're edge-centric. They're focused on these different things that expand beyond just traditional infrastructure. But their remediation approach is still a little bit immature or outdated or lacking. And it's causing a negative impact to some of these other areas for future advancement. Another example is you can have an organization where their remediation approach is proactive. They're able to pinpoint root cause analysis, troubleshooting is simplified, and they're operating either off of refactored applications or serverless, but they're more experience focused, behavior centric focused, and their kind of predictive or adaptive remediation approach doesn't necessarily match that monitoring posture that they're going off of. So the correlation is different for every organization, but the linear kind of essential path really varies, and it's okay to be at different levels of maturity, but it's also really great for an enterprise to look at these different areas and do almost an assessment in terms of, are we tracking where we need to be for our goals, for driving that acceleration, for continuing innovation, so we can deliver great services, great products, and increase that business productivity overall. So just something to consider. And when we're looking at Logic Monitor, what we really want to do for our partners and our customers is provide solutions that really future-proof your hybrid IT today, tomorrow, where you're going, from on-prem, hybrid, cloud, everywhere in between. So how do we do that? And similar to how we have that cloud maturity, kind of those options in terms of where an organization is, we offer a similar approach into the solutions and the platform that we have for where is the right fit for an enterprise. So if you needed to be proactive today, out of the box, this is something you can achieve where you're shifting from that reactive state. You need to be proactive. So with Logic Monitor, you're getting less alerts. You have a single source of truth, one tool from day one to have that holistic visibility across your infrastructure. You're reducing that noise by 80-90% on average. You're able to manage cost and spend of your cloud migration and what that capacity looks like. You're able to eliminate context switching by not depending on either native solutions in cloud or even multiple tools across different domains to understand that monitoring data, that context for that full visibility that drives observability essentially. And then what you're able to do from that proactive today stage is auto discover all of your resources in minutes, because that discovery is essential. It ties back to that you can't scale what you can't see. So you can do that with agentless collectors. So proactive today, good step one for those that are in that more reactive state. If you're looking at predictive tomorrow, essentially Logic Monitor really offers the industry's most extensible monitoring platform. And how do we do that is supporting that seamless expansion and scale, regardless of where a business is, but also regardless of the technologies that they use. We want businesses to be able to monitor anything. They should be able to monitor anything so they can then observe everything. And we do that with over 2,000 integrations out of the box, really strong, intelligent AI ops to help automate and drive or accelerate that remediation and what those decisions look like so you can act with confidence. But then we also offer limitless customization because no two enterprises are the same in terms of the services, applications that they're using. A lot of times the flexibility to drive those custom webhooks and APIs allows for that personalization that works with the existing technology you have without having to go out and spend an additional amount of money on new tools to fit. That kind of next level is adaptive for the future. So with Logic Monitor, we're really aiming to put you on that path to observability. If you're ready for it out of the box from day one, that's great. But if you're not, once you've achieved that proactive state, you're moving towards predictive and you're ready for something adaptive, that's where we can kind of start outlining that path on what observability looks like for your organization. Our engineering teams really focus on a platform that evolves as quickly as technology does. So you're never out of date with what you're monitoring, with where you're scaling, and there is no friction between the solution that you're dependent on to what your overall company goals are. The other thing for adaptivity in general is unifying those teams. With Logic Monitor, if you're looking at observability, you have metrics, traces, logs, you have all of your intelligence that correlates that information, but then you have all these different teams, whether it's in a CIO's organization or a CTO's organization. So you want that single source of truth because that data is critical, and how you apply that in the action that you take is essential to achieving those goals. So you want to unify those teams. You want to streamline those workflows, which could get really complex and convoluted the more tools you have or the more disparate your teams are. And at the end of the day, the main goal that I think everyone is looking, especially for your executive leaders, is to optimize your CapEx and OpEx. And then what we kind of strive to do just on a daily basis for our customers is really being prescriptive always. Because again, you have the data, but then what do you do with it? So guiding our customers within a solution and what's going on in their environment on, cool, this is happening, what next? Or this could happen, what next? So being that prescriptive partner on an ongoing basis with powerful automation, just to even simplify your operations, how your teams work streams across the board. The other big piece with being prescriptive is you have this big visibility across your infrastructure, your technology ecosystem, but you have that correlation, that context across everything. And then you want to essentially, at the end of the day, for all of your teams, drive confidence. Nobody wants to spend time guessing. It negatively impacts troubleshooting. You're spending way too many resources on things that really could be remediated with more efficiency. And at the same time, what you want to do in a prescriptive state is have that confidence that your solution is monitoring what you need, taking action where it should happen, but then it gives your teams that time to focus on innovation. And then if we look at that kind of maturity, those layers that we had before, accelerating innovation really allows your monitoring posture to shift from infrastructure or even application or edge-centric and operate on that behavior-centric or even experience-centric model. And that's where you're going to have that business productivity really scale. on a large level. So now we're going to have our senior sales engineer, Stuart Carrison, deliver a demo of our Element Vision platform to showcase the different components, solutions, capabilities, and key outcomes that you can achieve across your multi-cloud and hybrid IT.
Hello, my name is Stuart Carrison. I'm a sales engineer with Logic Monitor, and I'm here today to give you a brief demonstration of Logic Monitor's cloud monitoring capabilities. Logic Monitor, if you're not familiar with us, is a SaaS-based monitoring platform. We run entirely in the cloud ourselves, and that means that our customers don't have to run any monitoring infrastructure of their own. We take away the burden of maintaining on-prem solutions. Because we're SaaS-based, we need some ways of getting data into that platform. There are two principal ways. The first is through API integrations, as it says there in the top left, public cloud. And we also have an application called the Collector, which might be relevant in some cloud deployments, which we'll talk about shortly. Connecting Logic Monitor to a public cloud API is a wizard-driven 10 to 15 minute exercise. Deploying a Collector, similarly, a 10 to 15 minute exercise. Once those activities are completed, we are instantaneously a valuable monitoring tool. We have hundreds of out-of-the-box dashboards. All of our data sources, which we'll talk about later, have vendor recommended or industry best practice default thresholds that, of course, you can tweak if you need to. We have out-of-the-box reporting. We automatically ingest logs. We're going to apply AI and help you forecast your data. And we'll cover all of these features of Logic Monitor as we'll go through the demo. Not only do we collect data through API in Logic Monitor, we also have our own. It's fully documented and available to all of our customers. We have a number of out-of-the-box uses for that API, in addition to any custom integrations that you want to create if you so choose. Our out-of-the-box integrations, many of which are listed here, include things like IT ticket automation, so creating tickets in your incident management platform, sending alerts to you in the places that you want to receive those alerts, for example, Teams, Slack, and any other instant messaging platform that has an API. We also integrate with what I like to call IT workforce automation tools, so making sure that the right person's getting the right alert at the right time, and we're not unnecessarily disturbing people that are perhaps resting. And integration with software-defined infrastructure automation, so populating devices in Logic Monitor through our API the moment that they're created by something like CloudFormation or Terraform, and having Logic Monitor call APIs to take action in your environment if we spot high utilization, for example. In Logic Monitor, we support all services that you can acquire from the three main hyperscalers, Amazon, Azure, and GCP. They're on the left there. And we work on a 3-week release cycle for our data sources. That means that if Microsoft announces a new kind of Azure service tomorrow, within a couple of weeks, we'll certainly have the ability in the platform to monitor that new service. All data that we bring into Logic Monitor, regardless of how it gets here, is subject to what we call AI ops, our machine learning and AI algorithms that look very closely and analyze all the data that we receive. It happens automatically with no user configuration required, and it gives us 3 abilities in the platform. The first is what we call days until alerting. This is Logic Monitor looking at how your metrics are moving over a period of time. And if we see that metrics are moving towards one of our warning, error, or critical thresholds, giving you a number of days that you have until that capacity limit, whether it's bandwidth or memory or CPU or storage or anything else with a limit, when are we going to hit that limit? That is going to give us the ability to avoid that incident ever happening. Instead of getting an alert saying, you have just hit a threshold, we're going to tell you how long in the future you have until you hit that threshold. A very, very powerful feature that can instantly make IT teams much more proactive. We're going to make that forecasting and days until alerting capability play out in one other way, which we call simply forecasting. This is our customer's ability to take any 12-month chunk, or up to 12-month chunk, of the 2 years worth of unaggregated data we hold in platform, and forecast out into the future how we expect that metric to move based on previous behavior. This can be very, very powerful around budget setting time, when our CFOs and our finance directors are asking, what are we going to be spending on storage in Azure over the next year? What are we going to be spending on compute, on SQL, on whatever the services we might be consuming in the cloud are? That used to be, for me, an Excel spreadsheet activity that was very rough and ready and not terribly accurate. Now we're giving you the power to use real recorded, unaggregated data to have that very factual conversation with your budget holders and make some proper decisions based on that data. The third thing that we do with all data that comes into the platform is effectively we baseline it. We learn what the normal range is, the expected range as we call it, for every element of data coming into the platform. And you can see the expected range for this particular metric highlighted there in blue. Again, this is a very powerful feature of the platform, because once you know how a device or a resource should be behaving in any given moment, you can use deviations from that expectation to generate alerts. This is moving us away from static, flat 80, 90, 95% thresholds into a much more interesting space of tell me when things become unusual. And we have a lot of methods of not just telling you when things are unusual, but why they're unusual as well. And we'll explore those in a moment. The other way that expected range or anomaly detection comes into play is through what we call alert suppression. If you have routines, scheduled tasks, cron jobs executing in your environment that make the environment sweat, that increase utilization, it may be on occasion that you're getting alerts today that say your CPU on your backup server is running at 95%. And that might be an expected behavior because we want our backup server to be busy when the backups are starting. We can use our knowledge of that routine and regular behavior to suppress those alerts, cutting down on the amount of time you spend reading alerts that are unnecessary, alert fatigue and alert spam, effectively. One of the things that we do in the monitoring platform is we use the data that we know about your environment, not just to report on the performance and availability of your resources, your infrastructure and your applications, but also to help you manage capacity. This works very, very well in the cloud, where we are, we're paying for every single piece of capacity that we have. And what we must be able to do is spot over provisioning or underutilization. If we're paying a couple of $100 a month for a server in Amazon that's averaging at 2% CPU, we can save ourselves quite a lot of money very easily by changing instance types, by changing instance sizes and reducing that over provisioning and increasing utilization. Many of our customers provide this as a service. It's like a cloud audit service, and often we hear stories of that cloud service paying for itself within 6 months of it being run. As I say, we cover all resources available from the three main hyperscalers, and we have matching dashboards for them. They are technology-focused dashboards, so a virtual machine dashboard, a load balancer dashboard, a storage dashboard, a Lambda dashboard, etc. All of these dashboards feature the same functionalities that you've seen earlier: forecasting, anomaly detection, and so on. You can change these dashboards, you can clone them, you can create your own. We support in-browser WYSIWYG editing. There's no special edit mode here as long as I'm an administrator. We have a number of different ways of you displaying your data, and pretty much any data in the platform can be displayed in any way that you'd like. We can turn these dashboards into reports simply by sharing them. We can share them with anyone that has an email address. We can make the dashboard that the recipient receives refer to a specific period, and we can send that as a report out on the regularity that we would like to. So a dashboard or a report looking at the last calendar month delivered to our user or a customer on the 1st of every month. No one has to log into the platform to see that. You can invite anyone to log into the platform. The number of users is completely unrestricted, and you can use our role-based access control system to be very, very granular about what your users see when they log into the platform. If you only want to show one executive level dashboard to the CIO when he or she logs in, that is all they will see. And if they don't have access to our other features in the platform down the left-hand side, those icons will simply be hidden. Another example of an Azure resource or an Azure service having its own specific dashboard there. Some of the metrics we collect from the public cloud providers have got nothing to do with performance. They might be SLA, uptime, or they might be financial, like this one. And Logic Monitor is unique in our ability to place the performance of a cloud resource or set of cloud resources next to the cost of that resource. So you can build a dashboard that truly reflects how the users, whether they be the public hitting your e-commerce platform, whether it be your internal teams making use of the finance system that runs in the cloud, you can put the performance and availability of that service right next to the cost of running that service simply by doing something like tagging, which we fully support. All of the features you've seen so far, like forecasting and anomaly detection, happen here as well. So if I want to know what my cloud spend will be in the next 12 months based on the last 12 months of spend, I can do that here too. If I'd like an alert when my bill becomes anomalous because someone's turned on a bunch of features or services that I wasn't expecting, that's anomaly detection. If I'd like an alert because I've hit 80% of my budget on day 15 of the billing cycle, that's days until alerting. All of those features apply across the platform, regardless of the type of data we're looking at. The Amazon example, the GCP example there as well. One of the most important things I find when deploying a monitoring solution is to try and deploy it in a way that helps the IT team talk the business's language. We really help that endeavor in Logic Monitor. One of the things that we find ourselves doing frequently with our customers is helping them build groups of resources, groups of devices, groups of services by what they do, not what they are. It's very easy to group all of my EC2, all of my Azure VMs together because they're all EC2 and they're all VM. But what if I started to group devices together by the application or service that they underpin? Again, if we're doing tagging in the cloud, if we are naming our resources in such a way that gives us a hint to what they do, that's very easy and can be basically fully automated within our platform. Once done, building a dashboard like this that's talking about the business services, the business language that we're providing, not just the individual resources we're providing, is extremely easy to do and can be done in under 10 minutes. One of the most important aspects of any monitoring platform is alerting. It's how does that platform talk to me and my IT colleagues and maybe the business when a problem occurs. There are three things in Logic Monitor that help improve that capability. One is our ability to understand the parent-to-child relationships of your environment. Which resources are behind which front doors, which edge gateways, which load balancers, which firewalls, what storage accounts are being used to hold my web repository, my source code repository, and what glue is holding all of those resources together, what calls are being made from one cloud resource to another. That's important because if a load balancer goes down and I lose access to my web services, my web apps that were behind that load balancer, I don't need 50 alerts, one for the load balancer and 49 for the applications running underneath it. I need one. I need a single alert that's talking about the root cause of the problem. And by default, once we're monitoring your environment, once we've uncovered those pathways, we will automatically understand the parent to child. We will automatically disable alerting for the children when the parent has an issue. Now, when we send the alert for the parent, we'll include a list of the subordinate resources that have been affected by that incident, but it's one alert focused on the root cause of the problem. Logic Monitor is based around what we call logic modules, in particular data sources. These are the methods that we use to gather the performance data, to gather the metrics, to gather the logs that you care about from the particular resources that we've discovered or that you've asked us to monitor. Within each data source, and there's roughly 3,000 of them, there are a set of rules around how you want us to talk to you and when you want us to talk to you about the problems that that data source has uncovered. In about 70% of our data sources, we include custom alert messages that are specific to the technology that's having the problem we've detected. That means that you don't have a single alert template that applies to all errors, and that means that you're getting rich data in those alerts that are usually going to tell you where to go next, how to continue to investigate, and quite often there'll be some remediation steps here too. The days of this device has this problem are gone. Now it's this device has this problem, here's what you should do next to permanently resolve that issue. Very useful for a NOC or a help desk engineer that's receiving an alert that maybe they've never dealt with before. In Logic Monitor, we also ingest logs from the cloud. We can receive logs through collectors. We can receive logs through our logging API. We will automatically associate every log we receive with a resource that we're monitoring. That means it makes it very quick, very easy to focus on the logs for a specific resource. We also associate logs with incidents. So if I have a problem in the cloud, here I've got a Tomcat instance running in Amazon Web Services and my website's gone offline, we'll automatically search the logs for anomalies that occur at or around the same time as the incident, and we're going to include those logs that explain exactly why this incident occurred inside that same alert message, inside that same ticket, that same phone call, that same SMS message, however you want us to talk to you. This sort of section of the platform is, as I say, it's very important, but it's very easy to disconnect what I've just said. So I'm just going to refresh what I've just said because it's all related. Root cause analysis for a small number of alerts that talk about the genuine causes of problems. Alerts that give you more information than ever before, that include why you should care and how you're going to resolve the issue. And an alert message that includes anomalous logs that tell you all about the history of that incident and why it happened in the first place. That's one email, it's one ticket, it's an SMS on your phone, it's a phone call to wake people up if necessary. All extremely valuable, the most valuable alert message I can imagine anyone ever wanting to receive. Aside from monitoring the cloud resources and analyzing logs and pushing those two together along with dashboards and so on and so forth, one of the things we do in Logic Monitor is we look at the real user experience, is we sit outside our infrastructure, outside our cloud, and we experience the application just as your users do. We have a couple of different ways of doing this. One is step-based web checks. We can run these from any collectors that you've deployed or any of our data centers around the world on the screen there for you now. And we can build out these step-based web checks with as many steps as we like. This is effectively the journey that we've defined and that we believe our customers are going to go on. Unlike other more basic website monitors, we're not just checking for port 80 and port 443. We're sending data to your application, such as some authentication. Could be a query, could be a search term, could be in headers, could be post. And we're also analyzing the response that comes back from that. So if I authenticate with Office 365 as I'm monitoring here, I might expect to say, expect to see welcome Stuart after I click submit. If I don't see welcome Stuart after passing my credentials, there may be a problem with that application. So we can build those out in as much granular detail as we like. The second method we have of real user experience in Logic Monitor is an integration with a tool called Selenium. Selenium is a web browser plugin that works in Chrome. You click on record, you go through your website just as you expect your customer to do, searching for products, adding to the basket, going through checkout, so on and so forth. Selenium will provide you with a script called a side file. You simply upload that file up to Logic Monitor, and we will re-execute that exact same journey in your web app as frequently as every minute, as infrequently as once a day, with various shades of grey and different settings in between. We'll tell you about any web objects that don't load properly or that are in the wrong location, any timeouts, any HTTP 300, 400, 500, etc. messages that we see whilst executing that journey in a fully automated fashion. On the other side of the application, we have the capability of instrumenting your applications with you. That can be an automated instrumentation or more manual if you have access to source code. And that instrumentation is going to send open telemetry, open metric data into Logic Monitor that's going to allow us to capture traces. It's going to allow us to see exactly what code is being executed in your application every time a user clicks a button. And again, we're going to tell you about things that drift from normality. An operation in your application that took 3 seconds yesterday is taking 30 seconds today. And here's the code that's causing that problem. Here's the SQL query that's causing that problem. So a real full end-to-end picture, all the way from infrastructure, cloud resources, logs, the real user experience, and into your application code as well. I hope you found that demonstration useful. If you have any questions, if you'd like a more personalized demo, please get in touch with your Logic Monitor representative. We'd be pleased to help you move forward and help you go further. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.